Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. And thank you so much for joining me. This is Shifting Perspectives. I am talking about something interesting. This is like, I have mentioned it a couple times, but I really want to dive into this. If you look at the comments below, I have a link from the Mayo Clinic and I have a link from NIM, the National Institute of Mental Health. And there is an abstract. An abstract is basically an official document that says this is the research that was done. This is all the scientific evidence that we have. This is the research that we conducted. And this was the standing evidence that we found from the research we did. And it details the research. So if you look at that link down below, this covers it. So I'm going to mention these links a lot. I'm going to mention these resources a lot, and you can check the resources down below. Absolutely look into this. So I walked away with a medical condition, and this medical condition is very rare. It's not rare, it's actually very common, but it's not heard of. And it's so rare, quote unquote, it's so uncommon that when I first had doctors look into it, everybody across the board said, I have no idea what this is. And it took me, I got lucky. It took me a month to find somebody who had heard about it. And it was just a random happy circumstance that I found it. In addition to that, the person who told me about this condition explained to me how difficult it was for her to find anything about it and where she got her resource. So I just landed lucky on this one. And I'm going to break it down, show what I put together. And then I have those two links down below so you can see for yourself the link and the connection to these two things. So this is what it is. The first time I saw this is called vagal syncope. It's basically random fainting spells, but it's more than just random fainting spells. And that's what we're going to talk about. The first time I saw it was in my mother. Whenever my mother was under severe stress, she would just randomly pass out. Now, I noticed the severe stress the very first time I saw it was in 1990 at a funeral. Now, this was not your average funeral. This funeral was a DWI accident that killed my uncle and three of my cousins, all under the age of 10 years old. So we had, no, I'm sorry, under the age of 12 years old. So we had three children pass away, ages 5, 8, and 12 years old, in addition to my uncle passing away. So at the funeral, my mom had an episode and she passed out. She continued to have these episodes, and it was just a thing that I watched her body go through. Now, I watched my horribly abusive family gaslight her, say she was doing it for attention, slander her. And yeah, I watched these episodes proceed. It's a legit medical condition. She was vomiting, pale white, severely weak. And I noticed that when I got older, I started to do it. Same thing, severe. Now, I'm going to get really TMI here. So sorry, not sorry, but we need to talk about this shit. It is a complete purging of your entire system. It is a drop in blood pressure, and you will absolutely lose all control of your bowels and you will throw up. That's linked into this vagal syncope. So I ended up getting this, especially when I was in my first marriage. That's really when it started. And it happened usually at night. Now, I was raped in my sleep for 6 years. And around 2 o'clock in the morning, almost every morning at one point, I would wake up with this severe purging. And there's really nothing you can do. You wake up feeling like diarrhea cramps and you feel clammy, cold. Oh, I feel dizzy. So you start to get to the bathroom and as soon as you start to feel the symptoms, you've got maybe 5 minutes max, maybe 5 minutes. You get to the bathroom and you collapse. You black out. And I've woken up as much as 15 minutes later. I have endured so many bumps to the head. It's ridiculous. And your whole body just purges itself. And there's really nothing you can do except guzzle water and just lay in the bathtub and wait for it to end. It can last up to usually 5 hours for me, and then the recovery is just weak, and within another 12 hours, I'm back to normal. There's no rhyme or reason for it. It continued like that for about 10 years, and there were times where it happened every single night, and then it was once every month. It was very random. And for me, it almost always hit at 2 o'clock in the morning, which is relevant because my trauma was I was raped in my sleep for 6 years. So that's the link for me. I got to a doctor's office one time. I had an appointment, and on a rare fluke, it did happen on occasion, but not often. I was at the doctor's office when it happened. I was so happy. I'm like, yes, I'm finally with medical professionals. So I had a team. Like, I felt it, and I was in a back alcove out of sight. So when I felt it, I'm like, I need to be where people can see me. So I came out and I purposely put myself in the middle of the room so people could see me. And I went right to the ground. And sure enough, I had a team just boom. I had 5 people on me. They were taking my blood pressure, they were checking my sugar. That information, while I was able to get all of that medical data in the middle of the episode, it was phenomenal. They were able to come back and say, there's nothing wrong with you medically. It was just a drop in blood pressure. There was absolutely no diabetes, no anemia, nothing. So they kept me there, they watched me, they gave me orange juice, and they were like, We have no idea what this is." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I had talked to my doctor about it several times, and it was a whole they did blood pressure and everything on me at the time that I talked to my doctor about it, and it came back always like we're not finding anything. And they always did blood tests to see, and it always came back again, we're not finding anything. So to finally go through this here at this particular point, while I was in the middle of the episode, and for them to come back and say, the only thing we can find is you had a severe drop in blood pressure, and that's it. Again, nothing. So it was about a month later that I was at a clinic. I was at a walk in for something irrelevant. And I had suffered another fainting spell the night before. Irrelevant to why I was there at the walk-in, but I was talking to the lady there and the doctor on duty, and I was explaining to her my medical history, and she said, "Oh, I know what that is. That's vasovagal syncope." And I said, "What is that?" And she gave me a whole lot of paperwork on it, and she said, "It is not known about through the medical community. People don't know about this." And I'm like, "Details?" She explained that it took her talking to a doctor who had been in the profession for 60 years. And the only reason why she knew about it was because she talked to this particular doctor about it who had been in the profession for 60 years, and he had seen it, and he knew that it was vagovascular syncope. But nothing is known about it. There's no explanation for it, and it's random. And I'm like, okay. So I knew what to look for because I'd had it for 20 years, and I knew to monitor it. I knew what to look for. For me, it was predictable. It always happened, almost always happened around 2 o'clock in the morning. So I escaped from my slave situation in 2020. I got to New York City, and by then it was mostly gone. And then I entered a relationship. And sure enough, it started back up again. It only hit twice, twice with him. And that was unusual. Usually it was I'm in a relationship and it's happening all the time. But I noticed that it only happened twice with him. So sure enough, he was right by my side, taking care of me, walking me through it. And I'm like, please go to bed. This is just normal. I don't know what it is. And time passed. I'm polyamorous. So I was open relationship and I was on a date. And I went to this date, and this is interesting. I was wearing a color blue that I never wear. This color blue is a solid trigger for me because it is the same color of the walls that my mom painted the house where I was beaten, raped, traumatized. So I have a distinct trauma link to this color blue. That shirt that I was wearing that night was that color blue. I felt the anxiety when I put on that shirt that night, and I went, it's a good exercise for me. I'll be fine. I got there, and my date started drilling me about my past. And the more vague, this is so fucking irritating. The more vague I was, the more curious they became, the more they prodded, the more I finally opened up and we start talking about my trauma in the middle of a date. This is why I don't date. So he got very curious and he started analyzing. And I'm for the most part fine with talking about my trauma. Like I'm like, I can talk about it. I just don't like to talk about something so horrible in the middle of trying to establish a relationship. So we're going through all of my traumas and he's fascinated by it. And he's more fascinated about the fact that I'm perfectly fine talking about all of it. And I felt an episode come on and I'm like, okay. So I did the whole, I need to use the bathroom, got to the bathroom, woke up, woke up in someone else's vomit on a Manhattan bathroom floor. Don't know how long I was laying there. And definitely like ew, like low on my ew factor. And it was not my vomit, but I got up, cleaned myself up, went back to the table, and he's like, "Oh my God, are you okay? You've been gone a while." And I'm like, "Yeah, I have vasovagal syncope." And I started explaining a little bit of it. And again, he was like, "Oh, wow." And he's like, he says to me, "Is that linked to PTSD?" I don't know. So I took out my phone. We both Googled it and boom. Oh my God. As I said, there is a link below. So I read the abstract, the one that I included below. And yes, vasovagal syncope is linked to PTSD. So here's the link. This is now based off of my own data, my own observation of myself, my observation of my mother, and now my own observation of my other clients. Like I'm watching my clients, I'm watching me, I'm watching her, and I'm watching all of these incidences of PTSD and vasovagal syncope going off like crazy. And I'm going, son of a fucking bitch. And it checks out every single time. So here's what I found out. This is just observation. When it is basically a mental condition, a branch of PTSD that has mutated itself into a physical medical condition. Now, for the most part, the medical condition is completely harmless. It's annoying, it's disgusting, and it's harmless. The second time I had an episode this year, in fact, I've only had 2 episodes this year. No, I've had 3 episodes total. The third episode I had was a month ago when I was a guy had asked to hang out, and I confirmed this is platonic, right? Because I can't go out on romantic dates because this triggers it. And he said, "Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, this is platonic." And I'm like, "All right." And then in the middle of the date, he did the bait and switch, and he turned everything romantic, and I had an episode. I ended up shitting on Brooklyn, and he was scared shitless. Haha, no pun intended. And I told him I have a medical condition that is trauma induced when I'm on dates. I can't be on dates, which is why I asked if this was platonic. And you said yes. So this whole incident tonight turned really horrible. Fuck you. Please don't lie to people about your intentions. And this is why. So it was just solid confirmation that I can't be in a very specific situation without this happening. And I need to clarify, it's not specifically dating. It's actually just being in the patriarchy. For me, it's dating in the patriarchy. That's the trigger. So, like, if he were a nonconformist or LGBTQIA, I would have been fine. It's because it was patriarchy dating that I just wasn't okay. So, what I found was this: it is the body and the subconscious mind's last line of defense. There is the, "Oh, you have a trigger. Here's PTSD to help you get out of it. Oh, you have a trigger. Here's this mental behavior problem." I call those behavioral defenses to help you survive the trauma. Yes, let's get you out of this. And then there's vasovagal syncope, which is the body's last line of defense. All right, you can't get out of the situation. System failure shutdown. And that's what it is. It is a total system failure shutdown. It is when you are so stressed, you are so absolutely maxed out with where you are with your trauma that the subconscious mind just hits this fail safe and your whole body goes down and your whole body purges and you pass out and shut down. It is to make you 100% completely safe from whatever trauma or stress you are in if you cannot escape. It is really fucking annoying because it is just this glitch that is left over after the trauma. Now, here's the problem. Because it's now medical, I can't do anything about this. I have no idea how to turn this from medical condition back over to it being a mental condition so I can turn it off permanently. I have no idea. This is officially out of my realm of expertise because it's now physical and medical. And I'm going, the medical field is going, we have no idea what this is. There's very little information about it. It's a big, massive, we don't know what this is. And the mental field, the psychology field is going, why would we even look at something that's physical? Because we're all about the mind. So vasovagal syncope falls into this realm where the medical field is going, not it. And the subconscious field is going, not it. That's their problem. And it's just sitting there unaware by both fields. And whomever did the research for this NIM abstract, now I'm curious who did the research for this NIM abstract. We have 4 people: John Williamson, Eric Porges, Damon Lamb, and Stephen Porges. Interesting relatives. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's so fascinating. And even in this little bit of abstract, specifically the autonomic nervous system can shift to efficiently promote mobilization for fight or flight behaviors, or shift to a metabolically conservative state of quiescence that can manifest as extreme social withdrawal or even vasovagal syncope. That's it. Reaction to perceived threat takes precedence and displaces autonomic states that support social behavior, health, growth, and restoration. That's it. That's all that's said is this one, is it can develop to this extreme. And in my data and in my just observations with my own experience with it, and now with my clients, and now with what I witnessed from my mom, it is literally a last system failure shutdown, and we don't know where it is. So if you have PTSD and if you struggle with these random fits of just passing out without any explanation, where you just purge on both ends and you lose complete control over your bowels, this is what has helped me. Gatorade and water. I keep it in the bathroom at all times. Gatorade and water. And I've noticed that the more my mental illnesses have cleared up, the more I healed, the less it happened. I noticed that it specifically happened when I had compounded triggers. Like that night, it was a blue shirt, and I was on a date, and I was talking about my traumas that night. The other incident was I was in the middle of the patriarchy, and I was on it's psychological manipulation. I need to clarify that. It's not that I'm on a date. It's anytime I'm around psychological manipulation. That's really my trigger. I'm allergic to psychological manipulation. Now, I noticed with my clients, same thing. It's not so much a trigger as it is someone is psychologically manipulating me. And it's an immediate, I'm not able to get out of the situation, shut it down. It was doing it every single night that I was next to a sleeping husband. And then I just started sleeping on the floor, and it stopped for the most part. I just can't sleep next to anybody. And I noticed that as long as I'm around somebody within my parameters where I have it in my brain that I'm safe because I'm not in a slave situation, I'm fine. I've noticed that, as I said, the more I healed, the less it went away, until now I'm completely out of the situation. The vasovagal syncope has stopped. And the only times it's come up now is when I'm back in a psychologically manipulative situation, or it was that one particular incident where I had 3 different massive traumas hitting me all at the same time. 2 of those traumas were resolved. And it was just the compound of the color blue that I didn't resolve, because why don't I resolve this trauma? I guess it's because I've systematically removed this color blue, and it's such a rare color blue that I've just systematically removed it. So I don't have it. So I don't have it processed in my brain that, oh, I need this. I guess I could just condition myself to get used to it. But again, it was like the compound of all the different variations. So it's fucking scary, to be perfectly honest, when your body is doing that and you don't understand it. It's fucking scary. And it's scary when you go to a doctor and they're going through all of these different things with you and they can't find anything wrong. Really annoying when they can't find anything wrong. And it's even more so annoying and terrifying when they really can't give any direction and you're a medical mystery to them and you can't explain your body. So I've been managing this thing for 20 years, most of which I did without even knowing what it was. And now, where I am with my experience with it and seeing it in my clients and seeing it with my mother and other situations, it's all checking out each and every time. And I am noticing that as the mental health resolves itself, the episodes become less and less. And it takes extenuating circumstances for it to kick in. I noticed it is most common when you are in the trauma grief, when you are going through trauma grief stages, when you are first in that transition, that's when it's most common. It's as if you're out of the trauma. When you're in the trauma itself, your whole body is just condensed. And then you transition from survivor, you escape, and you get into this transition stage where you're out of the trauma, and now you're just dealing with it. When you are in the trauma grief stage, that is when it hits the most. And then it stays with you until you heal and start to pull yourself out of it. And as you pull yourself out of it and you start to understand your traumas and you get a handle on your PTSD, the more handle you have on your PTSD, the more it goes away until it's almost completely gone. And like I said, I went from having episodes every month to having episodes at times every night, then back to every month. And now I had 3 episodes this year, just 3. And I had an unusual amount of dates this year. I never go on dates. So I had 2 dates and it happened both times. So, and there you go. The year before I didn't do any dates and I had no episodes. Yeah, I didn't have any episodes last year. I didn't have any episodes all through 2022, despite everything that was going on, because I was not in a psychologically manipulated situation. So, and this comes back to with PTSD. This is interesting because aside from the color blue, that particular color blue, the only trigger I have left is a slave situation, the patriarchy, and psychological manipulation. Those are literally my only 3 traumas left. That's it. I could say animal abuse is also a trigger. And I'm going to point out something here in a moment. And also, violence and gore is a trigger. Now, are they really triggers? If anyone is responding negatively, poorly to significant, horrible things like animal abuse, violence, gore, then like, is it a trigger or is it you actually functioning the way you're supposed to function? So when I went through my trauma recovery where I was debating on which PTSD triggers to get rid of, and I cherry picked, it was pretty cut and dry with dogs barking. Yeah, I really wanted to go through life without being triggered over a dog barking. Dogs were a huge part of my trigger. So, and there's a lot of exposure therapy. I was able to eliminate that one. Basically, with the exception of this color blue, all my triggers are gone. I deliberately cleansed, transitioned all of my triggers out so that the only ones I have left are if I'm in a slave situation, if I'm around or in the patriarchy, which is a slave situation, if I'm around psychological manipulation, which is part of the slavery and the patriarchy, and if I'm around animal abuse or violence or gore, specifically violence, not so much gore. Like I can watch Walking Dead without a problem. As long as Negan's not in the episode. And let me rephrase this, as long as Lucille is not in the episode, and as long as there's no violence. It's specifically the violence that bothers me. But again, I wouldn't call those triggers so much as I would call that human, normal, and healthy. And in order to condition those out of me, I'd have to expose myself to them. So now I'm looking at desensitization. Do you need to be desensitized to horror? And that's really it, is we very often will link, oh, well, it's a trigger when you're exposed to horror. Well, no, that's not a trigger. That's a normal and healthy, balanced response. You are not supposed to be desensitized to horror. You're supposed to have a horrific response and reaction to horrific things. That's healthy, balanced, and normal. So I decided not to expose myself to violence or gore, and I decided not to expose myself to animal abuse, and I decided not to expose myself to psychological manipulation or slavery. So I have chosen to keep these 5 triggers, quote unquote, which aren't really triggers. They are really fucking horrible things. And yeah, I should have them. I should have a sensitivity to those. The animal abuse is the one that actually bothers me the most because I have a bunch of fucking assholes who love to show people abused and horribly treated animals. Why are we doing this? Like, seriously, like, what the fuck? So, yeah, those are my boundaries. So now we're getting into the wonderful world of boundaries. And I would not call these triggers at all. I would say these are horrible things that I personally have associations with, and these are my boundaries. Don't show me this shit. So the only thing I really should address is the color blue but again, I think that color blue, because I put on the shirt and I definitely felt my anxiety go up. Should I? Should I condition out the color blue from my Yeah, I should, because I can feel my anxiety, like, I'm going, "I don't wanna look at that color blue." Yeah, I should do it. So, yeah, I need to address my color blue problem, and that's it. Yeah. So when you end up, if you are experiencing vasovagal syncope, if you are experiencing random fainting spells where you are in the bathroom for like 5 to 8 hours and it's disrupting your day, don't panic. Take a look at the 2 links below. There's information there. Do more research on this. Talk to your doctor. And medically, all they could come back to me with was, you just had a drop in blood pressure. That was all it was, a significant drop in blood pressure. So keep your orange juice on hand, keep your Gatorade on hand, eat cookies, and just wait for it to pass. Nourish yourself. Always take care of yourself the next day. And if you do see this behavior in you physically coming up, don't panic. It's normal from what I can see. Like I said, from my experience, I see it a lot. So it's just never talked about. So take a look at the information below, do your research, and take it to your doctor as best as you can. And yeah, show them this video. Yeah, explain what you know. So if you love shit like this, like, subscribe, follow below, comment, let me know what part of the show resonated with you. If you have any topic you want me to talk about, if you have any weird thing happening, or you just want to know, like, I don't understand X, there is my Linktree account. Click on that, contact me and ask me your question, and I will make a video of it. And then I will tag you so you can watch the video if you want. And if you want it to be kept private, email me. My information is all below. Donate to the garden, help the garden grow. And thank you so much for joining me. May the kindest of words always find you.